Canada's boreal forest stretches from British Columbia to the tip of Newfoundland and Labrador. The northern boreal forests are currently one of the last safe areas where woodland caribou still thrive. But with increased logging and deforestation in this area, the size of their last safe haven is being diminished at an alarming rate. It probably comes as no surprise that as a population increases, so does its rate of deforestation. Some of the leading countries for deforestation are those whose populations have increased recently in the past few years. This notion comes from both experimental data and common sense.
Everything that we consume requires space, whether it's space to grow, or space to mine, or produce, or put our weight.
With human populations growing exponentially, naturally more space is needed for everyone to live. But on a bigger scale, as populations rise, substantially more resources are required in order to sustain current ways of life, whether that's agricultural needs, recreational space, facilities, or raw materials taken from forested areas.
We take up more space, we also leave less space for other species, and as we use resources like trees and soil and clean water, that reduces the amount available to all kinds of other organisms. This is why biologists say that we are currently living through one of the biggest extinction events in recent geological history. We're outcompeting other species for the very basics of life.
Woodland caribou typically flourish in older, untouched forests with areas that are larger than 10,000 kilometers squared. This helps them avoid predators and find lichens, a main part of caribou diets during long Canadian winters. They require forests that have not been disturbed by human activity. A large portion of the boreal forest is used for urban expansion, needed because of the ever-growing human population. This includes logging, mining, agriculture, and land development.
The boreal caribou does the opposite, spreading out thinly across the landscape, and in the past, this worked. But now boreal numbers are decreasing in BC and across Canada, and in some places have disappeared. Conditions have changed and caribou are dying at higher rates than before. Roads, seismic lines, and other linear features become arteries through caribou range for hungry predators.
An argument against negative effects of deforestation is that in some cases, such as the Zero Net Deforestation Act, trees are replanted to compensate for lost ecosystems. Although this is a start to addressing deforestation, it does not make up for lost forests. Replanted island forests are unable to effectively support the biodiversity that a large untouched forest would. New forests have different, less diverse species compositions. To date, there is no evidence that caribou ever return to areas that have been replanted after industrial activity. Greenpeace is a Canadian organization that fights to protect the boreal forest. So far, they have collaborated with First Nations groups in order to hear what they think should be done about the boreal forest in an attempt to follow the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. They have also exposed specific destructive habits and actions of logging companies in the boreal forest, specifically Resolute Forest Products, in order to educate the public and instigate change. Currently, only 8% of the boreal forest is under legislative protection, and Greenpeace is working to increase this amount. Logging and other contributors to deforestation have to be suspended in endangered forests, and old untouched forests need to remain the way they are, untouched. Policies should also be implemented to make different companies share roads instead of everyone making their own. So, if you didn't know much about deforestation and wondered why you should care about it, now you know.